Well, in the shop today, we're going to be working on the wheels from this 1968 Chevy C10. It's a long bed, two-wheel drive, got an inline 250. That's the inline six-cylinder and a 3-on-the-tree transmission. So I'm doing a lot of work on this truck. If you guys want to see more videos on, we're going to be doing an entire brake system on the truck. That's coming up real soon in the next few days. The engine is seized, so I'll probably do some videos on that. And then, you know, just everything that goes along with getting this thing out of mothballs, because this truck has been sitting, not running, for about 25 years. This truck belongs to a family member. This was his very first vehicle. He's now in his mid-40s. And he parked this truck when he started going to college. It was about a 4-hour drive one way to get to college. So I think that's why he parked this truck. He bought himself a little car. And this truck sat in his dad's barn for the first couple years. And then when he moved out of home, the truck moved with him, and the truck has been sitting outside uncovered, and we're in Indiana, so we're right smack in the middle of the Rust Belt. It's been sitting outside uncovered for about 20 years. So that'll give you an idea of the sort of condition of the parts that I'm working with. So rust is actually not eating this truck up as bad as I kind of expected it would have. But that'll give you an idea of the condition of the wheels. So some of these wheels are worse than others. There's a couple of them that are kind of bad. There's a couple of them that got me a little bit nervous. You can see the kind of rust that I'm dealing with there. A little bit of a dent there. So what we're doing here is I took the wheels because they had tires on them, but the tires again were those tires were about 30 years old, and they were old and dry and stiff. And since I'm doing all 4 of them, I took them up to the local shop and had them tear the tires off and paid the disposal fee to get rid of them in the proper manner. So that saved me a bunch of real aggravating work and busted up fingers and knuckles and stuff, so I didn't have to break down 4 old nasty tires. So this is what we're left with. My plan is, I looked into pricing on brand new wheels, and forget that idea. So if I can save these things, I'm going to save them. I talked to the guy at the shop, about what he's seeing. We were kind of rolling these around and looking at them. I don't think they're too far gone that they can't be saved. But my plan is to clean them up with a wire wheel, wire wheel on a grinder. I'll probably take a palm sander and, do a really good job along the beads here where the tires will seal. And so I'm going to clean these up with a wire brush, clean them up with a sander what I can. Of course, break out the old valve stems, just rip these off with old pliers or something. And then I'm going to shoot them with some Rust-Oleum paint. Now this truck is, I believe the name of it, I looked it up, the options for the 1968 trucks. I think this is called Omaha Orange. And the closest thing that I can find, it's kind of close to an Alice Chalmers Orange. But, you can tell the paint is old and oxidized here. I don't know what he's going to do with this thing in the future. I'm afraid it might get sort of polished up a little bit. So I would expect the color to lighten. And looking at the Omaha Orange samples online, comparing them to available paints, it's really close to Alice Chalmers Orange. But the Rust-Oleum, just a standard gloss orange, this is 214084 gloss orange, is also really close. Now you look at that and you think, man, that's nowhere even close. Well, look at that compared to that, and it's like, well, that's nowhere close either. This is so light and faded. This is kind of dark. This is a little different too, but this is really close to what it ought to be in the samples that I saw. So I'm afraid if he does polish this truck up, it's going to lighten it up, and it should be really close to this color. I guess we'll find out one day. But that's the plan here. If nothing else, at least I'll get some paint on these wheels, and if it ends up being the wrong color, if he cleans the truck up or whatever later on down the road, I am not going to do body work on this thing. We kind of discussed the plan for what I'll be doing. I'm going to be doing only mechanical stuff. I just want to get it back on the road for him, and then once he's got it on the road, then it can be sort of, his rolling project. So if he decides that, you know, the color of these rims is just not right, he can change this color fairly easily later on. Even with the tires mounted, you know, you can put the, get some index cards, put them all around the edge and repaint it. But at least this paint will, you know, it'll be on the inside, keeping the rust away. So if nothing else, if it's the wrong color, at least it'll protect the wheel. I'm gonna go ahead and get my grinder, my wire wheel out. I'll show you what I'm using. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do, I got a couple of them done, so I got myself a little bit of a process how it's going here. Haven't touched this rim yet, just got it up here on the table. First thing I'm gonna do is rip that valve stem out. These valve stems, for you guys that don't know, these valve stems have like a brass core, but then when you get down to the part that seals around the wheel, it's just rubber. So the easiest way is just to rip them out. Well, sometimes I guess you get lucky and they come out in one piece, but normally they rip off right there. The bottom half pops off. So there's the old valve stem. And the next thing is knocking off any weights. Now this one only looks like it's got, yeah, it's just got the one. It's got one very small weight here. So the easiest way to get them off, I'm going to do this where you guys can see, so that the weight itself is just clamped on around the edge of the rim, but not real far around to the inside there, because they don't want it to interfere with the seal that the rubber makes. So you got just a little bit of a lip here. So the easiest way is take a flathead screwdriver, catch the edge there, give it a little tap, and it nearly popped off. You guys see this? So it's nearly popped off. Now I just get up under there with a screwdriver, pop it right off of there. I will save these weights because these are old lead weights, and I'll reuse these for my fishing jigs. I'll melt them down and make fishing lures out of them. So the next thing we're going to do is inspect the rim, and we're looking for anything dents. Mostly we're looking for dents around the edges. We're looking for any major issues that would stop us from using this wheel. And I don't see any major issues on this side. Over here we got a couple of dents. We got a pretty, kind of almost creased it right there. That's a pretty sharp little bend. So that one's going to be hard to get out in a way that you won't notice it. This little dent here, not much of a dent. I'll whack that a couple of times with a hammer and that'll pop right out. You won't even know that one was there. This one here, it should clean up okay. I'll show you what I'm doing for that though. Okay, so because I'm going to be beating on this with hammers, heavy hammers, put it on the floor. If you do this on the workbench or something, you're gonna bounce it all over the place. Also, I've got my eye and ear protection on right now because it's gonna be loud when I hit this, and I don't want a piece of this coming off and hitting me in the eye. We're gonna have to get a little bit creative with this one. This is that bad dent. Well, you can see what it looks like now after I'm done with the hammering. And it feels pretty good. I mean, I could feel a little bit of something there. But by the time I get done, I'll take a sander to that. You know, of course, I'm going to wire wheel everything. By the time I get done wire wheeling, I'll take a sander to this, smooth off any of these, you know, sort of jagged edges from all that hammering. And you will never see that. So it turned out really, really well. This one over here, this one's just it's not really a dent so much as the lip is just kind of buggered up. So I'll take a sander and just, there's kind of a sharp edge right there. I'll take that edge off of there and you'll never see that. So that's pretty much it. This was of the 3 wheels that I've done, you know, those 2, they just had some not real bad dents in it. This was definitely the worst dent that I've seen so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock out that last one, same thing. And then these are the grinders that I'll be using. I got my cup grinder on my old Black & Decker, and one of these cheap little Harbor Freight deals here. Got a little grinder wheel on it. I got my electric sander out. I've got a air compressor or pneumatic sander as well. Takes the same discs and everything, but man, you start blowing all that air around and it puts a ton of dust in the air. So I like this a little electric one when I can use it. I'm going to go ahead and get that other one up here, and then we'll start grinding and sanding and stuff. Well, here we are after grinding, sanding, wire brushing, more sanding, more grinding, checking it out, more sanding. I think I put about almost an hour into wire wheeling, sanding, and grinding. So I took the wire wheel. I started off with a wire wheel. This one here, you can see how many pieces of wire it lost, so I'm going to need a new wire wheel. I think that's the last one of that size I've got. I took that and I started down in here, and man, I tell you, if a guy had a big blast cabinet, this would be the job for that, or send them to somebody to get sandblasted, I guess. This will do okay, especially given that I'm using Rust-Oleum paint on it, so I think these will be all right. The inside was just more pitted, it's just a little nastier. I don't think it's got quite the finish from the factory that the outside would. So anyhow, I got it cleaned up, you know, reasonably well. Some of it I had to get down in there with the hand wire brush down here in the bottom. So anyhow, you know, that cleaned up okay. The front side cleaned up okay. I took a little, you know, spent a little extra time around the valve stem. Mostly just that one wire wheel. Pretty well did everything up here on the front also. Then when I turned my attention to the inside of the rim, where, you know, where the sort of the function really is, it was really bad, and I probably should have showed you guys. It was bad pitted. Let's see, where's that? It was bad pitted where this thing had sat in the mud for a number of years. It actually, this truck was sank down in the mud up over the hubcaps, or up onto the hubcaps rather. You know, those little center hubcaps. So this thing was sitting in the mud, something like this far for a while. Well, I guess it right here. Okay, you can see the pitting actually on the front of it now that I'm sort of really looking. So this is sort of pitted in through here. I guess I probably ought to spend a little more time on that yet. So, but anyhow, on the inside, that I had to take the actual grinder to and grind to get a smooth surface where it's going to seal. And then after I took the grinder to it, you know, this lip and this lip here, after I took the grinder to it, took my electric little DA sander to it, and that just wasn't cutting it. So I actually did get out my pneumatic sander to take out all those grind marks and help kind of finish this up. It ain't perfect, but I'm going to have to draw the line somewhere, because if I grind this down to get all that stuff out, I'm going to end up grinding it through or weaken the metal so far that it's going to be, you know, too thin. So I got to draw the line somewhere, and that's as good as that's going to get. Do I think it'll seal? Yeah, I do. Would I like to do it a little better? Yeah, I would, but again, you got to draw the line somewhere. So I guess I am going to go ahead and hit that just a little bit more, maybe with a little heavier with a wire wheel, and then I'll probably touch that up with some sandpaper. And that's pretty much going to be it. And then we'll turn our attention to prep for paint, you know, wiping them down, wash them down real good, and get them painted. I'm not sure that I showed you guys this wheel. This is the one that I've been working on. I don't know how long I spent on this. It was over an hour, I would say. But it turned out okay. I got the beads cleaned up pretty good. You know, time I got done with the grinder and the sander. I think the beads are clean enough that they'll work. Overall, I think I made a comment earlier in this video about how if a guy had a sandblaster, you might be able to get down in these cracks a little better. And but overall, it looks pretty good. It's nice and smooth. I think paint will adhere to it just fine. And I think given how smooth it is, the paint will look good. But really, just down in these cracks here, it's just bothering me. I guess I could take a scraper and get down there with a screwdriver or something, knock that dirt and stuff out of there. But I thought a sandblaster might get down in those cracks a little better. So This is about a week after I did that rim. I have been fooling around with this Harbor Freight Sandblast cabinet. Now, I've always wanted a little cabinet, and I just never could justify it. And I thought, well, with this project, I'll just go ahead and get that cabinet, and you know, that'll justify the thing. So I got the cabinet. Man, it took forever to put it together. You can imagine, you know, that came in that box. So it came flat. Well, I went ahead and put some casters on it just to roll it around here in the shop so it's not taking up, you know, a definite amount of space. I can move it around. And I'm pretty happy with it. I've got you can see I've got the dryer there. Of course, I'm running it with my 20-gallon compressor, which only has like 5 CFM. And this thing, I think this thing wants like 10 CFM. But if I let the compressor catch up, keep the pressure cranked all the way up on it, I get just a little bit of time where it really does a good job. It's really blowing sand. And I mean, it could be better, but I've spent about the last hour on this wheel in that little blast cabinet. And I was really hoping that these get down in these cracks would be better, but unfortunately it's not. And to my dismay, the finish is really rough still. And I don't think that Sandblaster is going to be able to give me as smooth a finish as I've gotten with this wheel. And I really like how smooth that finish is. So I'm afraid I'm going to scratch the idea of the Sandblaster altogether and just go back to wire wheel, sander, and grinder. And because I'm pretty happy with how that one turned out. I'm disappointed that Sandblaster wasn't able to get down in those cracks any better. And the finish that it's given me is a little bit too rough for my liking. So I'm just going to have to get down and dirty, because it is very dirty when you're grinding and sanding on these wheels. Very dirty. But it's given me the best results. So that's what I'm going to do. I think they're going to be usable. That was questionable in the beginning, and I think they're going to work real well. So I'm going to get some tires ordered. I'm going to let that paint cure up for a few days. Well, here we go again. We're going to give this Alice Chalmers orange a try and see if that's a little closer. Well, I sprayed them all again, and that's what Alice Chalmers orange looks like. It's still just not a dark enough orange color. So we're gonna try another one. This is Satin Fire Orange. Again, this is another Rust-Oleum. This is a little different line of their paints, I guess. This 2X, I don't know, I've never used this before. We're gonna give that a shot and see what that looks like on there. Well, I think third time's a charm. That's the color we're gonna go with. It looks pretty close, and I think once the truck gets buffed up a little bit, if he decides to buff the truck, I think it'll be just about dead nuts, or that's the hope anyhow. I'm going to let these things sit and cure for a few days. I've got that one there just to sort of mock it up against the truck, and I've put the other ones there just kind of out of the way. I want that paint to cure up for at least a week or so before I send it to the tire shop to get these mounted up. I don't know if I showed you guys. Probably showed you already, but there's the tires. They come wrapped up in this gold plastic tape looking stuff. Anyhow, we'll get them up to the tire shop in about a week or so, and I'll show you what they look like when they're all mounted up. Well, these wide whites turned out pretty good on here. I think they look kind of sharp. We'll get that blue rubbed off here in the next couple days. I'll leave that on just to, I don't know, sort of protect the white. You know, while I'm doing work on the brakes and stuff like that, I don't want to get them all greasy. So if you guys are looking to do something like this, I hope I gave you some ideas of what to try. If you like this video, click the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, click the subscribe button. Till the next time, keep on tinkering.